Let's look at the General Ledger master data. Back in the old days, before any computers, all the financial transactions were stored in a big heavy book, which was called the General Ledger. All the entries were posted in this book. It was later consolidated into a balance sheet and a P&L statement. Now going forward in SAP, we will be using the same terminologies, the General Ledger and journal entries. So in SAP, the General Ledger is used to store the financial transaction of an organization. And all the entries here are called journal entries. Now, all the General Ledgers have been organized into a structured chart of accounts. Just like the name, chart of accounts, it's just a listing of all the General Ledger accounts and their description. As you can see on this image, you can have the GL, General Ledger, you can give it a code and a description is given. A code is given so it's easily identifiable among users rather than mentioning the description. For example, the petty cash code is 101000. For bank, it's 102000 and so on. So let's once again look at the terminologies. The General Ledger is used to store the financial transactions of an organization, and the chart of accounts is a listing of all the accounts used in the General Ledger along with their description. Now let's look at structuring the chart of accounts. In SAP, the chart of accounts can be identified with a maximum of 4-character code. In this example, I have given it as YCOA. Then you need to structure the chart of accounts into different account groups. Now it's up to you how you want to have how many account groups. But in this example, I have used just the 5 account groups, which is the 3 from the balance sheet, assets, liabilities, equities, and 2 from the P&L statement, that is the revenue and expenses. The account groups in SAP has to have 4 characters. For assets, I have used 4 characters as ASST, liabilities LIAB, and so on. Now for each account group, you have to give a number range. This number range controls the GL account code. Now, in this example, for assets, I have given a number range from 100000 to 199999. So then all the asset accounts I'll be creating has to fall under this number range. In this example, you can see I have given the petty cash code of 101000, for bank 102000, accounts receivable 103000, and so on. Similarly, for liabilities, I have given the account group LIAB with a number range of 200000 to 299999. And I can create a liability account starting with the 2. So the account groups control the number range. So number range controls what GL account can be created within this range. Now the maximum characters you can use in number range is 10. For if you are a small organization and you do not have many GL accounts, you can just use 4 digits. I prefer to use a 6-digit format for a medium organization, medium to large, because it's not too long to remember 10 digits and not too short, which might not be flexible in the future. Let's look at configuring the chart of accounts. We'll create a chart of accounts in the SAP configuration menu. So in the IMG menu path, click on Financial Accounting, General Ledger Accounting, Master Data, GL Accounts, Preparations, and you got to click on the button Edit Chart of Accounts List. Okay, so you can see that already many chart of accounts already provided by SAP. Now we'll be creating our own chart of accounts for our company. So click on New Entries. Then specify the chart of account ID. In my example, I'm going to give it as ZCOA. and give it a description. Now mention which language a chart of accounts is going to be. If you just type in E, automatically English will pop up. And here you need to specify the length of the GL account number. So you can have up to maximum 10 characters. I'm going to give the GL account number length as 6. Now this field is the integration with the CO module. So you can see manually creation of cost element and automatic creation of cost element. For now I'm just going to leave it as manual creation of cost elements. Usually all the revenue and expense accounts we will be creating as cost elements. But for now we'll just leave it as it is. Now if this chart of accounts links to a group chart of accounts, which we'll discuss later in the slides, you need to specify the group chart of accounts. And if this chart of accounts is not active, then you can click on blocked. But for our purpose, we want this chart of accounts to be active because we want to use this chart of accounts. And click on save. Create a transport request, click continue, and the chart of accounts has been created. Okay. Now let's define the account group for this chart of accounts. So click on define account group. Okay. So I'm going to create my own account groups. So click on new entries. Your chart of accounts has already been created, so you can look at the drop down menu. So we just created one now as ZCOA, so we'll choose that one. And I'm going to give it an account group ID as ASST and call it as assets. Give it a number range 10000 to 199912399. Similarly, I can give another account group LIB for liabilities and give the number range. Like this, mention all the account groups. One for revenue, and last one for expenses. I'm going to give the range 500 to 5999. Okay, and you click on the save button, and your account groups have been created. Now under each account group, now we have discussed is one thing is it is given a number range. So all the GL accounts has to be created within this number range for this account group. Another thing the account group controls is the field status group. Now we look at what is a field status. Let's click on an asset account group. So just double click this line, and you can see there are few tabs, or what you call few entries over here, and it's asking you to select a group, and each group will have its own field status. So let's look at what is this field status is. Click on one of the account group called account control. Okay, so the account group will control the field status, and in this we have come to the account control tab. So what this will do is, when you create a GL account, a master data, it will tell the system for all these entries whether to hide the entry that is suppressed, should be a mandatory entry that is required, can it be optional for the user to put in, so it's optional, or should it be just displayed so users cannot enter anything. So these are the four types of field status groups you can have. Either to options are to either to hide, to be mandatory, to be optional, or just to display. And you can see when you create the GL account, it's showing, asking you whether, okay, currency should be optional, tax category should be optional. Basically all these subgroups are optional. Now it might be a bit difficult to understand why this is all happening. So what we'll do is, let's now try to create a GL account. Then you will see where these fields are coming into place. Now to create a GL account, let's open a new session. We click on that icon to open a new session. And to create a GL account, the menu path is accounting, financial accounting, general ledger, master records, GL accounts, individual processing, and we'll create a GL account at the company code level. Okay, so the transaction code for that is FSS0. So let's just double click on that. Okay, now you can see in this control data tab, you are getting some fields: account currency, only balances in local currency, exchange rate difference key, valuation group, tax category, and so on. And let's look at this screen. This screen, now you can see the account control screen has all these fields: currency, the tax category, reconciliation account, exchange rate difference key, account managing external systems over here, only balances in local currency only here, alternative account number here, inflation key, tolerance group. So you can see these fields will control what fields are going to be shown up when you try to create the GL master data. If you don't need some of these keys over here, you can just click on suppressed, and that fields will not be visible anymore. So that is the purpose of having the field status group. Now if you want some fields to be mandatory for the user to enter something, then you go to click on required. If not, you can just keep everything to optional. Similarly, you can look at another field status, account management. So that has all the other things called line item, open item, sort key, authorization group, and so on. So as you can see in the account management tab, let's try to scroll down, and you got these fields: line item, open item management, sort key, authorization group, administrator is coming as accounting clerk, and so on. So these are the information which is there in the account group. So the account group controls for each account group which fields are going to be displayed or hidden or mandatory or just optional for the user to enter. That is the account groups. We have created account groups. Let's go back to the main screen. Okay. Now you got to define the retained earnings account. So what is this retained earnings account? It's at the P&L statement of every year, you will have revenues and you will have expenses. So revenue minus expenses can be a profit or a loss. Now this balance profit or loss amount has to go to the balance sheet under the equity section or capital stock section. That is basic financial accounting principle. So to identify to SAP to take these amounts and put it to this retained earnings account, we need to come and do this configuration setting. So let's click on define retained earnings account. So we need to specify which chart of accounts. So we will put our chart of account which is created now. Okay. Now this shows the P&L statement version. For now we'll just put it as X. You can give any ID you want. So we'll just be having one P&L statement version. So you can give any ID. I'm just putting the ID as X. And we need to specify an account. Now we specify that the equities account should start with from 30000 to 399999. So we need to create one retained earnings account. Now this GL account has not been created in the system, but for configuration purpose we can just specify one account and create it later. So we'll give it the ID as 305 maybe, and like that. As you can see, this is for the balance carried forward transaction. We are doing this setting. And click on save. Now you're just getting a message saying this has not been created. We can always go and create it later. So click on enter in your keyboard to continue. Press OK. Right. And that has been saved. Now we have done the basic settings of creating the chart of accounts, defining the account groups, and creating the assigning the retained earnings account to the balance sheet. Next step is to assign the chart of accounts to the company code. To assign the chart of accounts to the company code, click on Financial Accounting Global Settings under Financial Accounting New. Then click on Global Parameters for Company Code and click on Enter Global Parameters. Now here you can enter all the parameters for the company code you have created, and some of the parameters you can enter are the chart of accounts. So now you can go and find the company code which you have recently created. For example, we'll use a company code ZMNM or Z123, any of them. Okay, I'll use this one and just double click that. Okay, here I can specify the chart of accounts. So I'm going to specify my chart of accounts which I just created now, ZCOA. Okay, and you also need to select the field status variant, because this will specify what's the variants can be used for creation of GL accounts. For now I'm just going to select a default one in the system. I'll just choose a field status group 0001. Later we'll be coming back to this screen to enter all the other information. For now we'll just enter the field status variant as 0001 and the chart of accounts as ZCOA. This will be enough now to create our own GL accounts. Click on Save. Okay, so we have created our chart of accounts, we have defined the account groups, we have defined the retained earnings account, and we have assigned this chart of accounts to our company code. Now we can start creating our GL accounts. So click on Create New Session icon. Okay, now let's go back to the same entries again. How to create a GL account: financial accounting, financial accounting, general ledger, master records, GL accounts, individual processing. Now here you have three options: either to create centrally, or at chart of accounts level, or at company code level. So what's the difference between these three? Centrally, we'll have both the chart of account screens as well as the company code screens. Now to understand this better, let's look at the chart of account screen first. So this is the chart of account screen. So in this screen you can just give the basic information, give the GL account, which chart of account it belongs to, give it an account group, which select the account group, specify whether it's P&L or balance sheet, give it a short text and give it a long text. And if there's any translation, we can give in different languages. And in the company code screen, you can give it all the other information. The control data tab will be there, create bank interest tab will be there, and the information tab will be there. So let's create an example. We'll create it centrally in this example. So click on centrally FS00. Okay, so I'm going to create a petty cash account. So I'm going to give it an ID as 1010000. I'm going to put my company code ZAN123, and you need to click on this button, the create icon button. Okay, now you go to select your account group. Now these are the account groups which you have specified when in your earlier transactions. So we have configured 5 account groups. So you will select the assets account group. So that's where my petty cash is going to be. Now if I try to select a different account group, I will get an error because I have given the number range for equities from 30000 to 3999, but I am trying to create one with 1010000. So 1010000 is going to be an asset account group. So I need to select the correct account group. Assets. Now this is a balance sheet account, so I'm going to select it's a balance sheet account. Now here you can give it a short text, so I'm going to type it in petty cash. You can type up to 20 characters, and I can give it a long description if I want. You can type up to 40 characters. Then come to the control data tab. Now here you can click on account currencies already defaulted from the company code. Now it's asking whether should it be in local currency only. Now this indicator only balances in local currency means that the balances of this account will only be displayed in this currency. For this example, the balances of this account can only be displayed in Australian dollars. But the line item entries, even if it's a foreign currency entry, you can see it at the actual foreign currency entry in line item level. But if I click this, then only the balances you can see it in this currency. Generally, for all the balance sheet accounts, we usually click on this indicator, only balances in local currency. There are some other indicators are there. Let's discuss the most important ones. The tax category. Some accounts you will have to mention a tax code. For example, in your country, if you have a 10% tax rate and you want to specify, make sure all the expenses are having a tax category, you can specify the tax code over here. Now here you don't have to directly specify the tax code. You have different indicators. There's going to be input tax, output tax. You can see all the indicators are here: input tax, output tax, and the tax codes also you can directly specify. Let's say for this account, you'll always mention it's going to be a capital acquisition account of 10% goods and services tax. You can directly specify the tax code. It's advisable not to specify the tax code here, but just to mention whether it's going to be an input tax account or an output tax account, or all type of taxes are allowed. For example, for expenses, you can specify it as an input tax account. For revenues, you can specify it as an output tax account. Or if you're not sure at the time of creation, just mention it as all types of tax account, or just leave it as blank. So this is a petty cash account, so there's nothing tax relevant over here, so we're just going to leave it as blank. For some accounts, you can also click this posting without tax allowed. So even if you specify tax category, you can still specify now let it post without any tax codes. Now, if it's a fixed asset account or a customer account or a vendor account which you're going to create, then you need to specify that this is a reconciliation account. So reconciliation account means you'll be creating individual customers or individual vendors or individual assets, but as a general ledger account, you will be creating their main account. So the main account is called the general ledger account, and the individual assets or customers or vendors you'll be creating are called sub-ledger account. And this main account is also called as reconciliation account. We'll discuss this in more detail later on. Then you have a tab called alternative account number. This allows you to put a legacy system's account number. For example, if you're migrating from an old ERP environment to a new one in SAP, you can put the old GL accounts over here. So this gives you references of what was the GL account used before. Another purpose is to have a country chart of accounts over here. We'll discuss what's a country chart of accounts later. Is to allow your company to have another set of chart of accounts for external reporting. Coming further down, you have open item management or line item display, sort key, all these fields. Open item management means if you wanted to have this account to be a clearing account, you need to select this field, open item management. Because if it is open only, you can actually clear it. For example, some of the bank clearing accounts or goods receipt, invoice receipt clearing accounts, any type of clearing accounts always have to have the tick as open item management. Now, if you want this account to be displayed at individual lines, or if you want to see the line item postings, you have to select line item display. If you don't select this, you cannot see the individual line item entries for this account. You will only be able to see the balances. So it's important that you select the line item display if you want to see at the line item level. If you select line item display, then you also have to select the sort key indicator. The sort key will actually populate the assignment field of any document created. We'll look at all this document creation later on. At that time, you'll understand how the sort key is filling up the assignment field. And what to fill it up, you can give any information. For example, you can fill up the assignment field with the vendor number, the purchase order, the document date, all these different entries are available. So for now, I'm just not going to put any line item display, just leave it as blank. Or I can also even select one. So I'm just going to choose the first sort key. Let's put as posting date. Okay. Then you have create bank interest tab. So here you need to specify what's the field status group. Now field status group of this GL account will control during any document postings what are the line items are going to be visible or hidden or mandatory for this particular GL account. Now don't get confused with the account group which we created earlier in configuration. Account group controls what are the fields visible in each of these tabs for the general ledger master data. The field status group controls what fields will be again suppressed, required, optional or displaying for the document line items. So generally we'll just select for balance sheet accounts the standard one provided by SAP G001. Post automatically only indicator. Now if you click on this field, then you'll not be able to create any journal entries and post to this account, or create any transactions and post to this account directly. So you need to untick that. Post automatically only mean that, so you can actually do some journal entries for this account. So why is this post automatically indicator available? For example, for material or stock accounts or some consumption accounts, you do not want the users to go and post anything manually. You want the system to automatically update this account, because then only you will have an idea what are the materials coming in and going in via purchase orders and sales orders via the goods issue process or goods receipt process. So you do not want any changes in the materials, and it has to be automatically updated by the system. So that's why this option is available. There are some more other fields also available, but not very important. Let's look at another tab. This is the keyword translation tab. So we have maintained our chart of accounts in the English language. So the translation is already given here. If you're a multinational organization and you want your chart of accounts to be displayed in different languages, you can specify different languages over here and enter them. For example, you can specify it in French and give the French translation here. You can specify it in Chinese and give the Chinese translation in here. And the final tab is the information tab. The information tab will tell you who created this GL account, when it was created, and if there's any changes to this account, what are the changes done. So this account has not been created yet, so it's showing as blank. So if I click on the save indicator, automatically the account will show you when it was created and created by whom. And if there's any changes done to this GL account master data, you can click on change documents and see the change history. Now we saw how to configure the chart of accounts, define the account groups and return earnings account. I have given some screenshots of the IMG menu path and the short transaction codes for them in this slide. And we saw how to define the chart of accounts, what are the important fields we need to fill up, defining the account groups, what are the account group controls, the number range, and the field status of the GL master data. And we saw the field status group of the account groups and how it's affecting the GL master data and where they are linking up, and which fields will be displayed or optional or required or hidden. And we also saw that we need to define the return earnings account. Now let's look at the types of chart of accounts. There are three types of chart of accounts: operating, country, and group. Now all the company codes will have their own operating chart of accounts, that is their main chart of accounts which they are using for their operations. So the advantage of linking many different company codes worldwide to the same chart of accounts, like this example, I'm assigning different company codes which use different currencies, but they're all using the same chart of accounts, is that you can have cross company code transactions. So if you buy and sell, or you can sell behalf of this company or buy behalf of this company or pay behalf of these companies, all these cross company code transactions can be done only if they are under the same operating chart of accounts. Now for some countries, they might need to have their own country-specific chart of accounts because the current operating chart of accounts might not be sufficient for them, or there might be a country-specific requirement that they need to report it separately. So then some company codes will have their own chart of accounts. For example, an Australian company code might have their own Australian one, New Zealand might have their own one, and Singapore might have their own one. So then you won't be able to do cross-company code transactions because they're not under the same operating chart of accounts. So that's the difference between having the country and operating chart of accounts levels. Now, country-specific chart of accounts can be another requirement when you need to have a different set of GL accounts for this country and a different set of GL accounts for the other countries. So that reason also you might have a different country-specific chart of accounts and a standard operating chart of accounts. Now, all this operating on this, all this country, all this chart of accounts can be linked to one group chart of accounts. So, if you're a multinational company based in the US and you want all the consolidated statement to report in US dollars for all the company codes worldwide, then you link all your operating chart of accounts of the other countries to one main group chart of accounts. Now, we saw when we created the chart of accounts configuration, there was an option over here asking what is the group chart of accounts. So what you need to do is specify that group chart of accounts over here. So automatically all the entries in this chart of accounts will also be shown in the group chart of accounts and in that group chart of accounts currency. So those are three types of chart of accounts: operating, country, and group. Let's look at the assignment from one company code to the chart of accounts. Now we saw in our earlier screen we have assigned the chart of accounts to a company code when we did the assignment of chart of accounts to a company code global settings. Now many company codes can use the same chart of accounts. That's why we say that this option is useful if you're going to do cross company code transactions. Or for each company code you can have their own chart of accounts. So the assignment is 1-to-1 or many-to-1 between company codes to chart of accounts. This screen just shows the assignment of a company code to chart of accounts. Here you can specify the chart of accounts for the company code, and if you have your own country chart of accounts, you can specify that country chart of accounts over here. And we saw the creation of GL master data. For our example, we created it centrally, but here you can also see you can also do it individually at chart of accounts level and then company code level. Now let's look at an example of how to create a chart of accounts level for a GL master data. Okay, let's try to create a GL account at the chart of accounts level. So click on FSP0 over here, the menu path. Okay, I'm going to give it a number as 1020000 and I'm going to create a bank account. So, and my chart of accounts is going to be ZCOA. Click on this icon, create new icon, choose under assets, it's a balance sheet account. Give it a short text, maybe bank HSBC1, something like that. And click on save. That's all, and data has been saved. You can also click on Control and S in your keyboard and that will also save. Let's go back. Now let's click at the create at the company code level. Click on this. The last entry create automatically updates over there. The company code I want to create is in Z123. Click on the new icon again. Automatically the currency is updated. And I'll just click on line item display and select a sort key because I want to display the line items for this account. Go to the next tab, create bank interest, field status group. I'm going to select a field status group, a general account, or I can even select bank account if I want, but for now I'll just choose, because it's going to be bank account, I'll just might as well select the bank account option and save. Now here I'm just getting a yellow means just information message saying keep balance sheet accounts in local currency only. So I'll follow the advice. Data is already saved, but still I'll go back to control data and I'll make sure this field is ticked. Now to do any changes, you got to click on this icon with the pencil, change, and I will select this and then I'll save it again. Okay, so that's how we create the GL account at the chart of account level and company code level. Now we saw the creation of GL accounts, creating a chart of account level and at company code level. Now I've given some definition of why these fields are used for, just a short text for your information. We saw these account currency fields, the balances in local currency field, the tax category fields, the reconciliation account number field. And if it's you're having a chart of account at the country account level, you can also specify this country chart of accounts number here, or you can also specify your old system's GL account number here. This is mainly for information purpose only, this alternative account number field. And we saw what's the use for open item management account. That's basically for all the clearing accounts, has to be open item managed ticked. The line item displays field, the sort key field, but the sort key field will populate the assignment indicator of the document line items. We saw some other fields, this field status group, which will control the document line item field statuses. The post automatically only field, which is mainly used for material, stock and consumption accounts. And this information tab will tell you who created this account, when it was created by, and so on. So that basically concludes this presentation. We saw how to define the chart of account structure, how you assign these account groups, how you assign the chart of accounts to a company code, what type of chart of accounts are available, the 3 different types, operating, country and group level. And we saw how to create GL accounts centrally at chart of account level and at company code level. Now for your assignment, try creating a new chart of accounts and then define the account groups for that chart of accounts, and then define a retained earnings account. This basically sets up your chart of account settings. Then assign this chart of account to a company code which you have created, and then try creating many GL accounts, if possible 1 for each account group you have specified. And you can set the different type of fields over here, whether it has to have a tax output or input, whether that GL account you have created is going to be a reconciliation account or not. You can play around with the field status group, assign different field status group, and whether those GL accounts are going to be an open item management account, line item displayed, and sort keys required or not. So all these things you can play around by creating different GL accounts. This will give you good practice to understand this GL master data.